Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for clicking on
Hello.
this podcast. This is
Mhm.
the two alchemists,
Mm.
and I'm Jasmine. I am my Instagram is Sun Pluto Alchemist. I'm a Reiki and mental alchemy practitioner.
And I'm Tonya, the business alchemist on Instagram. I am a business astrologer and coach, and I help soulpreneurs to build the businesses that they love from a authentic space.
Very nice.
So, yes.
So, this podcast, we are going to discuss what spirituality means to you. But because the podcast has become too long, packed with too much content, this will be cut into about 2 to 3 episodes. So, look out for the description below for what we are going to talk about in this episode.
What does spirituality mean to you?
Mm, okay.
That's the topic. Yes.
Um, this is very, very important. This is a
Important, yes.
important. I just shortened two words. This is a very important topic to me, and both me and Tonya live by spirituality lah. So we are gonna talk about in this episode what it means to us, what it means to other people. Especially, I feel like out there is quite a number of misconceptions about what spirituality is, and I wish that this podcast can provide more point of view for the people who are listening in.
Yeah, I mean, for me at least, I mean, my whole life, not my whole life now, at least
Mm.
at present, is steeped in spirituality. And, I guess what we want to do is we want to also explain to you our points of view of what spirituality is to us. I'm also aware that there are growing trends of this being bigger and bigger in the world. More people are awakening and more people are talking about spirituality rather than just whispering in the corner somewhere and no one is looking or no one's watching. Yeah.
That was me, seriously.
Yeah, and that was how I came into it as well, because I had friends who just, oh yeah, yeah, and I was like, what? I didn't realize you guys are talking about, oh, you guys are into this whole spiritual stuff. And,
Ah,
that's how I came into it as well. So I want to support more people to come into it, to explore this. I want it to be more of a norm than this, something that's so taboo.
me too,
Yeah.
me too. Especially,
Mm,
I feel like there are actually more and more. This is what I observe lah. There are like more and more people who are like awakening and then coming to into like being interested in this topic, wanting to live more. Like they want to get more out of life experience than the mundane about like what society construct tells you to do. Like you need to get a good
mm,
job. You need to just get a partner, get married, have child. It just felt like things there should be like more depth to life, more
mm.
experiences to life than just what it is. So yeah,
Yes.
hopefully we can provide some insights.
Yes, exactly. So, with that, we come to the first topic, which is defining spirituality. What does it mean to us?
So
Yeah.
what does spirituality means? Because I mean it's just a word, right? Especially that we are gonna come into this later on, is that a lot of people they mistook spirituality as some form of religion, but actually
Mm,
to us it is not. But I
mm,
think the greatest question that came to my mind was what's the difference between soul and spirit? So
yeah.
I think I read this somewhere before, which I cannot right now for the life of me, I cannot recall what book was that.
Mm,
That there's still a difference between soul and spirit. And I do a little researching yesterday. So this is how they describe it. Imagine that you are a car. Every one of us is a car,
mm.
and the soul is actually the engine that drives you,
Okay.
and the spirit of your life is kind of like your GPS. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Which direction would you
Mm,
carry out? Like where you want to go lah, as like literally like in your life. So have you heard of this, like, oh, this food is comforting, is good for my soul, this show
mm,
is good for my soul, that kind of thing. So I
mm,
would see in that way, like the soul is kind of like your vibration or your frequency, things that comforts you, things that make you feel okay just being where you are right now. But you
Mm,
know, you can have stuff like you can keep feeding your soul, like in terms of like I'm gonna have good food, I'm gonna have good conversations with friends and stuff, but
mm,
still you can hold a job that you doesn't like, or you can go about life without a life purpose, or to just do things without having some form of direction, but still keep giving in to social construct. This is how I
mm,
see it.
mm,
And but then when you invite spirit into your life, invite
mm,
spirituality into your life, you get to ask deeper questions. Like you start to reflect, you start to gain more awareness of like how do you actually treat people? What kind
mm,
of belief system do I actually hold? What kind of values do I actually hold? Does my job serve me? Am I really in love with my partner, for example? So like all
mm,
of these things, and then when you start to invite all of these questions, right, it will start to slowly form the direction where you want to go in your life.
mm,
This is what
mm.
I would feel spirituality is to me lah.
I
Yeah.
see. So it's kind of like in the GPS, like what you were saying, whereas the soul is like the vehicle through which we travel in
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah.
I
Because I do.
guess.
Sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, I'm just trying to picture what it's like.
Yeah, I would say sometimes, even though I feel like these still do come hand in hand, I still can able to picture sometimes when somebody say like, oh, I need to go after my life purpose, I need to do certain things, experience certain things in life. There is also a chance that you forgot to feed your soul, like you forgot to rest, you forgot to comfort yourself, like all of the, I don't know, very Taurus things in life, I would say, to just make
Yeah.
you feel happy like in the moment.
Mm, I see, I see. Wow, okay. That's a very interesting distinction that you make. I never really quite thought of it that way, and I always kind of lump it all together. But it's very
Mhm.
interesting that you distinguish between the two, and it kind of makes sense in terms of its relevance because you can do things that feed the soul that are not necessarily spiritual. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But the spiritual part is the one that actually guides you through life and
Mm.
um, gives you more meaning in life. So in
Yeah.
a way, the spirit also can feed your soul. Is that the way it can work?
Yeah.
Spirituality can feed your soul too.
Yeah, exactly like what you say, because I feel like um because this do come hand in hand no matter what, which is why I feel like a lot of people they kind of like lumped it together. But when I kind of separate this out, right, maybe it helps to form a structure in one's mind where you can think about, hey, do I fall more into like feeding my soul, but I forgot about the direction in my life? Or have I been wanting to go in a certain direction, even sometimes to the extent of like I'm trying to chase, but I've actually forgot that I'm perfect where I am now, and I just want to be where I am now. So it does
Mm.
come hand in hand lah.
Yeah, but it's really wonderful. Then you can see the balance between the two,
Mm,
right? Because
mm,
sometimes you forget that actually spirit needs something too, and then soul has other needs too. So when you make sure that the two align, that's when you probably maximize it, I guess, in
yeah,
a way.
yeah. That's what
Yeah.
you make, how you make like the most experience in life, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. I wanted to share that for me, spirituality is kind of like a coming home to myself. Um, and it's who I am rather than who others want me to be. It's kind of like maybe I came into this world like a clean slate, and I was
Mm,
totally myself when I was a young girl. But then, as I grew older, as I had more experiences and I interacted more with the world around me, be it, family members or relationships or friendships or teachers, mentors, all of that, then I started to form certain beliefs about things that
mm,
may not be 100% aligned with me and my own
mm,
belief system. And so it's kind of like spirituality is that thing that guides me back again to
mm,
who I truly am.
mm.
Um, yeah, I guess, for me, that's what spirituality is in a
I
nutshell.
love it. I love it. Because the next thing I want to share is I guess some of the people may ask this question because like the story I share is
Mm,
that, spirituality, the spirit is the GPS, right? Then
mm,
where exactly is the GPS? And to me, it's always back into your heart, which is exactly like what you said, because it's about like, coming home, coming home. Because if you never really think about it, you never really deep and reflect deep enough, right? I think some people may go on by say like, oh, maybe this is according to what the society wants. This is according to what my parents want me to do, like their expectation of me and stuff like that. And if you
mm.
don't, and it's so easily to like fall into that space because it's easier to kind of like just go with the social construct, just go with the wave so
Yeah,
that there'll be no judgment. You don't have to justify yourself. But
there's no friction.
exactly, exactly. But in truth, it is not like that because
Mm,
if you are always going according to what they want, you are actually betraying your heart. So it's
yeah.
always like what you say, homecoming is coming back to yourself, coming back to your heart, and asking your heart like, what do I actually want, and then going that
Mm,
direction. But that's also
mm,
when it means that you are going against the current. But again,
mm,
you need to know that your heart, yourself, is actually strong enough to brace against all of the current that may come.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like a way of training you up as well, right? To be
Yeah,
able to handle it, to take it. It's not
yeah,
as if we can't handle it. It's something that our nervous systems can handle
yes,
eventually.
yes, yes.
Maybe
Yeah, brain.
initially it'll be difficult.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, like both of us has been on this journey for quite some time. We both know that it's actually not.
Yeah, yeah, we are both recovering people pleasers.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
I haven't like introduced myself that in a very long time. But still it's definitely not easy.
yeah, definitely not. So, I mean, the other thing also I wanted to
Mm,
talk about briefly when it comes to spirituality is that some people think that it's, woo woo. It's about being
mm,
talking about the
mm.
woo woo stuff, or maybe some people think it's about buying crystals, or it's about tarot cards. And a lot of the time, people actually ask, "Oh, you do astrology? Oh, do you do the tarot as well?" And I go, "No, I don't do tarot." I don't know why, but they link the two together. Maybe pop astrology or astrology has always kind of like somehow been linked back to tarot.
Mm,
But yeah, spirituality isn't about the modalities. It is
mm,
not.
mm,
It's really like what I said about coming back to yourself. It's
mm,
not about channeling. It's not about talking to guides. It's not about talking to angels, right? And
mm,
it's definitely not, to me, religion. It's
mm,
definitely not a religion. It's not a way of life and a way of some person in a book or a teaching that is
mm.
told somewhere. It's not. It's just really listening to my heart, like what you say,
Yes.
coming back home to.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes, I love that. I love that you brought that up because this is exactly what I wanted to say also. Because
mm,
when you, I think the thing is like what we say, the essence is coming back to the spirit. I want to say the spirit of spirituality. The
mhm,
essence of spirituality is coming back to yourself, to your
yeah,
heart, and whatever approach on whatever modality that you use or you do, right, is actually for you. It supports you even further to coming back to yourself. So like, I
mm,
mean, to just give an example, if let's say I have some challenges going on in my life right now and I really needed some form of support, which is where
mm,
I go for maybe intuitive reading or like go for tarot reading. Because
mhm,
once you believe that everything is interlinked in this world, in on earth especially, everything is interconnected, right? Even tarot reading and channel reading or even like mediumship is going to help you in some form or ways. But when I think what the perception outside, when especially when you haven't embarked on your spiritual journey, from the
mm,
outside looking in, and you hear things like, oh, I'm in spiritual community and I do tarot cards. I'm in the
mm,
spiritual community and I do channeling, I do mediumship, I talk to dead people, I do talk to ghosts, that kind of thing. From
mm,
the outside looking, it's a bit like, oh my god, what is going on?
yeah,
It's a bit
yeah,
like, then they have those kind of like very that this misconception of like how it may be just superstitious, or they
Mm-hmm.
kind of like place their trust or their hope onto something that is not even proven. Then they think that spiritual people are crazy. I don't
Mm.
feel like or rather I've
Yeah.
heard of some people, they didn't tell me straight to my face, but they imply lah with their tone and the
Mm-hmm.
things that they say. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, I always feel like they don't have deeper understanding of all
Mm-hmm.
these approaches before they start to judge. And
Mm.
also to put it in another, to call out another aspect, right, is that while I say that, I do feel like there are people who are in the spiritual community, of course not necessarily in Singapore or just limited to Singapore, is that people jump into learning, say, tarot cards or like channeling or like starseed stuff without coming back to themselves first, without making clear about who they are as a person, where they stand, what their values and beliefs are, before
Mm-hmm.
jumping into all these approaches and modalities. That's where things get very dangerous, because they are
Mm.
the one who's gonna offer support or offer kind of like help to other people. That's where I
Mm-hmm.
find it dangerous lah. That's how I feel.
Mm. Mm. How is it dangerous? You maybe give me some examples of how is it dangerous because they don't know themselves and therefore they help others, and what
Mm,
can possibly happen.
So, like for example, I can see this more clearly for myself, because, like what you say, both of us we are recovering people pleasers. So, like for
Mm.
example, when I was working, I was in corporation. I kind of like gave my power away to my boss or like the CEO of the company, to like have full trust in them, and say that, you know what, I quit my job and I decided to offer such kind of services lah. And I jump straight into, let's say, becoming a channeler, that I can talk to spirits, I can talk to spirit guide, angels, or even like the higher source. And I'm now supporting other people to on their own spiritual journey. And
Mm.
what if I gave my power entirely to the spirit guides, to
Mm.
angels, or like to the higher source, without, and I bypass discernment entirely, and I just gonna
Mm.
take whatever they say, and I'm gonna like just pass it down to you, and then you use it as a guidance from me
Mm.
or from
Mm.
the spirit guides. But nobody ever actually questioned about you coming back to yourself, like, do you actually feel right for yourself? Do you actually want to do this? Have you have all the checks within you? Was it projection? Was it do it out of fear, or
Mm.
actually should you work
Mm.
on your own boundaries? There are no, I'm guiding people yet at the same time I didn't offer advices like that, and then you just
Mm.
take my advice or like the advice from the spirit guide entirely and
Mm.
just run with it. I could
Mm.
ruin another person's life like that,
Yeah,
I feel.
yeah. It's like you're not questioning the motivation for their asking the
Hmm.
question and
Yeah.
wanting the guidance in the first place. Sometimes the need for guidance is misplaced and it may be because of something else. And
Mm.
therefore, they kind of give their own responsibility away to you as the guide. And then they trust that everything's going to come from you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Tanya, would you like to share about your personal journey, how you got here and be on the path of spirituality?
Okay, I would say that it's going to be taking me another full episode and maybe a full blog post to tell you the whole story. But I guess I could concisely summarize it in here as much as I can, I guess. The first maybe 42 years of my life was spent in a very, almost like a very non religious background I had. So you would say it's almost atheist. We believed that we are the driver of our own lives and we do everything for ourselves. There is no trust in anyone else outside of us. There's just trust in ourselves getting the job done. That was it. But I guess for me, around the age of 42, 43 was when I had my first spiritual awakening. Astrologically speaking, it's called a Uranus opposition, And Uranus is the planet of like sudden change. It's kind of like lightning bolt kind of change. And because it's in opposition, it was like, something is like 180 degrees kind of a change. So instead of being one direction, I was like completely, like someone turned my compass and said, go the other direction instead.
Wow. Wow, that must felt crazy.
It was crazy. It was really crazy. I mean, because before the spiritual awakening, I was a completely different person. And my husband can attest to that as well. I was very logical, very process driven, very numbers driven, very evidence based. Didn't trust in any of this other spiritual stuff. And I did call it very woo woo stuff. And Reiki was bullshit to me. Astrology was another whole load of bull crap to me as well. So I really had no inkling of what these things could do. I didn't want to know what they could do because I just thought they were just all horse shit, horse crap,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Um, but I think over the years, as I started growing older, from about maybe 30 plus years old, I started getting
mm,
health issues. I had hyperthyroidism, which is Graves'
mm,
disease. It happened a few times, right? And I think later on, what I realized is because thyroid is actually sitting in your throat, it was like a
mm.
lot of suppression of myself, of
Oh,
my own voice, right? And of voicing out my own needs and my wants as well in my relationships with others. There was a lot of that. So I think that's why it was there in the first place, right? Then after that, there were gut issues as well.
wow.
Yeah, a lot of gastritis, a lot of intolerances, and so on. And I think I would say there was a lot of pent up emotion in me because I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to feel my emotions.
Mm,
And so much of it was unprocessed. And in a way, I was unable to stomach life. No, I don't know whether
wow.
you've read the book Heal Your Body or Heal Yourself by Louise Hay, but it kind of has a list of all the various ailments that you had,
Wow.
physical ailments, and
Wow.
what they could possibly mean.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, that's really amazing book that I read. So I initially I thought it was like, could it be
Mm,
so coincidental that I was having issues with this, but it somehow manifested
mm,
itself physically as well for me. So there were a lot of health
mm,
issues I had, and human design wise as well. My own incarnation cross, which is my life purpose in human design, is the cross of healing.
wow, okay.
So it literally came up in the sense of
Wow.
many, many physical health issues that I had.
Oh,
Right. And so many times I felt that I didn't have answers from the medical doctors. Even for hyperthyroidism, I asked the doctor, what's the cause? It goes, don't know. Just take the medication. Right.
serious ah? Oh my gosh.
Then I asked the gastric doctor, what's the cause of my gut issues? And he goes, it could be so many things. It's okay. You don't have to work on that. Just take the medication.
Oh
Those were the kind
gosh.
of answers I was getting from the doctors at that
Uh,
time, which got me very frustrated with them. And I think over the years, I found that many answers came from the holistic healing modalities,
mm,
like say body talk, traditional Chinese medicine, craniosacral therapy, and even like Lindwall emotional releasing actually gave me so many more answers this way on understanding my own ailments in a more
mm.
holistic way. Yeah,
Wow.
so these were things that went on a mental, a physical, energetic, emotional, as well as on the
Wow.
consciousness levels. So I felt that this, kind of brought me into a different space. Yeah, but
Mm,
I guess the main breakthrough for me was through Lynn Wall, emotional releasing,
mm.
which was the very first one. And that
Wow.
was really the pivotal point in my spiritual journey. That was the one that got me just switch completely, right?
Wow.
From
Wow.
being completely unaware and unconscious to conscious and awake and aware of what I was doing
Wow.
and what I was thinking as well. So yeah, it was facilitated by a team called Heiko and Selena. And
Mm,
I was suddenly able, I think, to see things so much more clearly, to see the way I acted and how I was very much a
Wow.
victim of my own circumstances and how I was a huge part of that own victimhood as well. So yeah, I guess it was very sudden for me, right? It was not like it happened over time. Of course, I
Mm.
know my growth has taken a long time, right? But that sudden switch, that where the switch just turned on, and I realized I needed to be more aware of what I was thinking, of
Mm.
what I was doing, and how I was so responsible for a lot of things that were happening to me, and how I realized, oh, actually, things are happening for me, not to me. So I was
Wow.
like, wow, okay, that was amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, so this happened
wow.
2017.
It's been some time
Yeah,
back.
it's been quite some time. So yes, it's been really quite a journey for me. In
Wow,
terms of
babe.
yeah.
Well, it also, well, now that I'm listening to it, it really felt like, especially the health issues, is really one after another. It's
Mhm.
I I mean, I just cannot imagine like how tough it must be on you, but at the same time, walking through all of that, right, coming to the realization of how much strength and resiliency you have during that point of
Mm.
time, like going through one after another.
Yeah, I guess I never really saw it that way. I mean, like to me, by the time I reached breast cancer in 2021, it was
Mm.
like, oh yeah, sure, I can work through this. You know, I don't know whether you call it dissociation, right? It did
Mm.
take me a couple of years to process it as well, but
Of course, of
um,
course.
yeah, I guess you kind of like, okay, I've been there, done that with all the illnesses, right? So this is another
Mm.
one. Yeah, okay, I can do this,
I guess it's two parts though. It of course no matter what, this association sometimes it can be healthy for you, especially
Mhm.
when you are in the midst of it and you really needed a bit of like the logical part, the sanity part of yourself to kick in to help you tie through that period. But it's also like the amount of stuff you have gone through is it serves as an evidence for you of like, hey, you know what? I'm actually stronger than I thought. It's
Mm.
I did all of that. I've gone through all of that and I'm still here. And it's just another one. I can go through this one as well. I mean, it just felt like that to me lah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's kind of like started off so horribly, but kind of
Mm.
has gotten better in a way that
Mm.
I learned how to many different tools. I've learned many different modalities to help me along the way as well. And then,
Yeah,
of course, I've got a really supportive community with me too.
that's so important, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I
Mm.
also like while you were sharing, I also this is what I wanted to share also for anybody who is very, very new to this because to me spirituality is kind of like you have obviously I felt like the essence is coming home to yourself, but there's also like little bits of stuff that we believe in. And sometimes believe in is an understatement because we know that it works like that. And the other big thing is we always know like things come in, right? It's like things that happen to you or for you or like things that come into your reality. It is no coincidence, it is not random, and things kind of like are placed in front of you or in your circumstances. It's like the same. You always find like there are like same similarities or like same theme because it's meant to push you in a certain
Mm.
direction. And I feel
Mm.
like ever since I, come into spirituality, especially like practice this, is whatever comes into my vicinity, I will try to take note and I'll try to observe. Like there's a mental mark in my mind of like,
Mm.
hey, I observe this thing happen. Are there like other stuff that similar patterns that keeps happening? Whether what is the lesson to learn here or where is it trying
Mm.
to push me to? Like I will have
Mm.
this little bit in mind lah. And the other
Yeah.
thing, yeah, and the other thing I actually wanted to ask you is because well, everything that you do, it contributes you to a point of like I feel like it contributes you all the way to the point of like you had that switch of like, hey, I can see like the interconnectedness. Like, why am
Mhm.
I behaving this way? Therefore,
Mm.
how I, contributes back, that kind of thing. Like, how
Mhm.
does it feel for you when that moment it happened?
So the first moment was in the shower, like that. I think maybe a few mornings after the first session I had, and it was just, it really came like as a very sudden idea or
Wow.
a realization. It was like a eureka moment. Just suddenly it just comes in. I was like
Wow.
that. Oh shucks. Yeah,
Do you
and
recall what was the thing that you like hit?
yeah, I think initially, because the thing is I'm a people pleaser, and
Mm,
I always kind of never thought of myself as a mean person. Never thought of myself as a mean person. And I always thought people were being mean to me, and I didn't think I was capable of being mean to other people.
mm,
But then there were moments in my own childhood, in my teenagehood, that I actually remember reliving as well during the showers that I had. And I was like, oh, shucks, I was really mean to my baby cousin at
wow.
some point in time. And I remember justifying my actions, right? Justifying and telling myself and telling my parents why I did what I did. So I was
Mm,
over justifying it, over logic, over being overly logical about my actions.
mm.
But actually, those were just excuses for my behavior,
Wow.
which I realized at that point, oh, shucks, I did something really bad. And I
Mm,
didn't own up to it. I didn't take the responsibility for it. I just pushed it away and said, no, I'm being a
wow.
good person. So I think that was really like the moment where I realized, oh shucks, I'm not really even being true to myself.
Oh, wow.
Not
Wow.
telling myself lies. I'm really telling myself lies.
Wow, this is exactly the thing about spiritual work that I feel like
Mm,
it's probably the hardest for most people. I mean, in theory, it's very simple, right? That your ego is always there trying to justify, trying to protect you because it's so. I would describe like ego as being weak. I don't know if that's the correct word. It's kind of like
mm,
it always feel the need to protect itself, like felt like
mhm,
it cannot stand on its own by itself. And
mhm,
somewhere, somehow, when you come into this kind of like clarity of your own actions, and it can be like, oh, you know what, my like exactly like your case of my actions actually cause hurt to other people. In some
mm,
other cases, it could be recognizing of your caretakers, your parents, how they treated you, and then recognizing that, oh gosh, this happened to me, and
mm,
allowing your ego to really break down and not trying to justify anymore. Don't justify for yourself. Don't
mm,
justify like whatever your parents did is correct, but recognizing it for what it is, right? I
mhm.
think to
Yes.
me, that is like the hardest part of practicing spirituality because at some point you're gonna feel like, oh shit, I'm actually the bad guy. And that's actually
Mm,
very, it's like the toughest for me as well. I also want to talk about spiritual ego, but later part of the
mhm.
podcast, which is I think
Okay.
it ties in very
Ah,
very tightly with this.
I see. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, up to that point, I was just thinking, my whole life everyone's just been wronging me. Everyone's just been mean to
Mm,
me and not giving me like not being nice to me, right? But
mm.
I keep being nice to everyone else. So how come this is happening to me? And that was a real like whoa kind of moment for me. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I have cases where I recognize this, right? It just hits straight into the heart of like, oh my God, it was me. I'm the bad guy, all this while. And I
Yeah.
mean, knowing the fact that we are all are just human, that we are definitely not perfect. But at that moment where you recognize that, it's one of the hardest moments I always have.
Mhm. Yeah. It's kind of like seeing the monster in you, right? Because you
Yes,
see the monster in others very easily, but it's difficult to
yes,
see your own shadow. It's difficult to
right.
see your own monster.
Right. My God, thank you for sharing that story. That was a real vulnerable moment.
I don't feel vulnerable, no. But yeah, it's a matter of fact.
Maybe at that time lah, not now anymore.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of. I've been so many years on this journey, so recognizing these
Yeah.
moments are actually very I would say very, I wouldn't say life changing, but very transformative, right? It's like
Agree,
very
agree.
transformative. And you're just able to switch out and go, oh, okay, you know? Yeah, so yeah. What
Yeah.
about you though? I mean, what's your spiritual journey been like so far?
Yeah, so this is when I speak to people, when people say like, what is your when is your spiritual awakening, right? Because I've spoke to quite a number of people, like even like your spiritual journey and your experience. Mine actually happened quite differently. So I hear the story. Some people, or rather most of the stories that I heard, is there is this moment that everything clicks. Then they realize that, oh my god, there's actually more to life. There's actually more to what I believe, what I see, and stuff like that.
Mm,
For me, and funnily enough, somebody I know like in my life that practices Qi Men Tunjia, and he was trying to help me look at my chart just for practice and for fun. Apparently, I'm born with this thing whereby like I'm deeply connected to my unconscious and to the shadow side
mm,
of myself and other people. So actually, my whole life, I've always struggled to not see this part. So I always see deep into people's shadow, into people's unconscious, even into my unconscious. There's always this voice inside of me, or like when I talk to other people, I can always see the other side of the person that I
mm,
cannot unsee. And when
mhm,
I ask, right, people will be like, the other person will be like, hey, you too sensitive lah, you think too much lah. Like why are you
mm,
having all those kind of like thoughts and reaction and all those kind of emotions? It's totally
mm,
unnecessary.
mm,
Unnecessary. So for the
mm,
bigger part of my life, because it's one versus many, I've
mhm,
been convinced that I'm the one with the problem. And I have to stop, like, I have to stop listening to this voice. I have to stop seeing, just have to stop seeing things so deep, lor, because it's causing me a lot of discomfort and a lot of like inconvenience. Because especially when I talk to someone, I clearly, for example, see the anger, but when I'm reacting to it, the person doesn't admit it. It's causing me a lot of inconvenience in life, and I'm
mm,
convinced that there's something wrong with me. And I actually spend a very big part of my life suppressing this part, telling myself I'm the crazy person for seeing all these things and then reacting to all of this. So it's
mm,
I even got to a point where it just I feel like I'm succeeding in some sense, but I've gotten to a point everything just felt like zombie. There's no aliveness to life anymore. And
mhm,
it was a struggle for me because like I don't feel alive anymore. I don't like my life. But if I were to embrace or like to allow the other part of me where I'm born with, it causes a lot of inconvenience and a lot of unhappiness and discomfort. And then I feel very, very stuck. So
mm,
yeah,
mm,
so what I did for like, eventually I became an adult. I started working. So what I did is like, remember at the start we were saying like we always have this hush hush talk about
yeah,
spirituality. That's what
yeah,
happened to me lah. So I'll have a corporate job, I'll go to work, I'll pretend everything is normal, I'll gossip with colleagues about other colleagues, I'll talk about how the food is, how the weather is, those kind of like very
mhm,
surface stuff. And then when
yeah.
I go home, right, I'll be like, oh my god, spirituality, listening to
Secretly
videos.
following.
It's so in the closet. Then I'll be like,
Oh,
oh my god,
wow.
I see human relationship. This is triangulation. This is I don't know. This is called scapegoat. I was recognizing all of this thing as all of this part, and I think it was a
Mm,
revelation for me when I understood the term depth psychology, like what is conscious and what is unconscious. That's where
mhm,
everything clicked for me. It's like, oh my god, I have this ability to see into another's unconscious, and then my unconscious voice is always very loud, which is why it drives me crazy. And it also took
mm,
me a long time to realize that, hey, you know what? Not everybody is like me. It
yeah.
takes me some time to really come to term. You know what? It's just something I'm born with, lah. And
Mm.
how I managed it was like come back home, Google, find things to satisfy my own craving or my own knowledge. Yeah, so at that point of time, I feel like the most famous or like the most popular teacher was Teal Swan.
Mm.
I am very grateful for her, like how much I learned from her, how much she's willing to share. All of these contents are for free. I understand right
Mm.
now if you're listening to this, she's quite a controversial figure even now and then lah. But they are like go to whatever she shared, and she really helped me to type through like a lot of stuff. So just to share a little bit, right now I'm listening to Carl Jung's knowledge,
Mm.
Jordan Peterson, Maria especially. If anybody's who's listening who's like interested in all this kind of like the people, you can let me know as well. So I'm gonna share the link with you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also because I'm attending counseling psychology school, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like teachers who are like very supportive, very helpful, and I like just great. Like I learn a lot of stuff from them as well because I always feel that psychology it ties in very intricately with spiritual
Mm.
work. Yeah,
Mm.
that's
Yeah,
for
there's so
me.
much to do with the psyche, right? And the psychic
Yes,
stuff as well.
so much of it.
Yeah. Wow. So it feels like, wow, your journey is so different from mine, Jess. So,
Right,
so different,
right.
right? Yeah. But it's like it must have felt almost as if you were an alien because you were seeing so many different things and no one else around you could validate what you were feeling. So there was
Yeah,
no external validation for this, and therefore you were like, okay, so if no one's going to validate what I'm doing, then maybe what I'm doing is wrong or
exactly.
imaginary, and therefore you just had to suppress it and to hold it back for so many years.
Exactly, exactly. So when I
Wow.
first started to do this Reiki offering and then to like even share what I know, I tell you this is freaking scary to me because I've always been in the closet for a very long time. And
Mm.
recently in my Instagram page, I'm not very sure about YouTube because I cannot, me and tech lah. So I don't know how to see whoever is watching me. But in my Instagram page, I do have people from my past,
Mm.
like my ex colleagues and stuff, started following me. And I tell you, the moment when I see that, right, I'm like shivering. I was like, dear God, like these people is gonna like. I feel very exposed, but at the same time,
Mm.
I think in their mind they may think, what the hell is going on? Because I wasn't like that. I'm like, you know what? Let's go
Mm.
gossip about other colleagues. This is the topic
Mhm.
I used to talk to them about. So
Mhm.
I can imagine it must be a surprise to them
Shock.
lah. This is whatever I'm sharing
Mm.
right now is gonna be so different.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's similar for me as well. I mean, the backgrounds that we had were not dissimilar. We were both in very numbers, logical
Mm,
sort of jobs, right? And therefore, people saw us as very logical people. What in the world are we doing talking about spirituality and Reiki and
right.
energetic healing? It's so disorienting for people.
Mm, yeah, especially for people like what we shared at the start. Like when they see from outside looking in, right? They're like this woo woo, this superstitious. When they actually don't have a deeper understanding of what
Mm.
exactly all this about, they'll just judge from the outside, lah, which is unnerving to me still.
Mm. Which is what I did anyway. I know I did that, right? Before I started the whole spiritual journey. So I'd
Mm,
be like, yeah, okay. So I would imagine that people who are not familiar with this kind of work would be just as judgmental. But it's one of
yeah.
those things, right? I just kind of learned to um, be okay with it. Okay, hello. I'm Tonya, the business alchemist, and
And this is Jasmine. I'm a Reiki and mentor alchemy practitioner. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for listening, and do look out for the next episode, and more for our discussions on what spirituality means to you. Bye for now.